Hey, Tyler, you are on with Eve and Alyssa. What do you want to chat with us about tonight?
Hey, how's it going? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to, I guess, discuss abortion. This may be quick. Maybe we might find some agreement. I kind of wanted to go through a few points and then just let you guys have at it.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, so I agree with abortion, but I don't think right to body is a good reason for abortion. I think recognizing fetuses as low sentient or just not sentient at all is more helpful for women. I think it's a more convincing argument. So the right to your body isn't a good reason to kill another sentient being. The right to your body is a good reason to kill a non-sentient being. So for example, if you consent in an act that potentially were to like poof a fully grown human that would be attached to your body, I don't find it moral to kill that person. But if you consent in an act that potentially poofs like a non-sentient being onto your body, I find it moral to kill that thing. Additionally, another example is, for example, if you consent to donate your kidney to a sentient being or sentient person, you're giving up some bodily autonomy to keep that person alive. I don't think you can then take your kidney back from them and kill them. But similarly, if you consent to give a non-sentient being your kidney, and you say, hey, I want my kidney back, I think you should be able to ask for that kidney back and kill the non-sentient being.
So,
okay, Alyssa, you go ahead.
Would you say that if a person is, my first thought is it's kind of my first thought and really kind of like where I think I'm always going to have kind of a hard stop with it is, okay, if that's how you feel, then don't abort your child. But I don't really know why your opinion has to be the opinion that applies to everyone else.
Yeah, I think, Tyler, that's the main issue that I was going to point out from the get-go is that you're arguing whether you think abortion is moral or not. My argument that I make is about what is the legality of it. I don't think that you should be able to legislate someone else's body in that way. I find that unacceptable. And as far as morality, I think people have to figure that out, what they want. I had to get life-saving abortion care because I had an ectopic pregnancy. And I don't find that, I don't care if it was like, I've made this argument, if it's a grown person attached to me, if I'm having like without my consent attached to this being to keep them alive, I don't think that you should be required to do that. So yeah, I guess with what Alyssa's saying, I understand that that's your argument and how you rationalize it, why you're okay with abortion or why you said you support or agree with abortion or whatever. But, and that's great, whatever you've decided on your stance morally, but it's the legality that matters because that's what people are trying to use to take control over other people.
Right. And the other thing too is you are prioritizing the opinion of the men who are ultimately decision makers in this over women who are saying that they don't want the abortion to be something that is subject to a government to decide. It violates the privacy of each individual in that state as well. And I think, you're allowed to have whatever kind of morals and values you want within your house. But in the spirit of this being a free country, like Eve said, legally, those rights deserve to be protected. And we know that when abortion is illegal, the rate of abortion does not go down, but the rate of safe abortions does go down. So people will still have abortions. They're just not going to have safe access to it. So we're not really discouraging people from doing the actual act itself. So I would rather have a safe way for people to perform a medical procedure that is private and between themselves and the doctor, than have those women have their lives be risked because respectfully, I mean, if this is not personal, but like because a random person like in Oklahoma has an opinion of what she does with her body. And it's also like many times people who are pro-life are also aligned with other beliefs that would lead me to think that it's not really about protecting the child. It's about protecting a woman's choice of what she wants to do with her body, which again, it's like, Tyler, if that's what works for you and for your future partnerships and the potential pregnancies that you may have, like moving forward with other people or whatever, then that's great. Then that's how you can conduct your own life. But that doesn't really mean that everyone else doesn't have access to a safe medical procedure as a result.
Yeah, I maybe I wasn't clear. I agree with abortion being legal.
No. Right.
Okay.
But my concern is that that's just not a good argument, because we can't the whole debate about abortion is so that we actually have our rights. If you try to argue with somebody who believes that abortion is murder and you try to lay out this whole like sentience thing for them, non-sentience, it's not going to go very far, because there are religious people with so many extreme beliefs to the point that they think masturbation is wrong, all kinds of things. So to me, it is a waste of time to argue the morality of abortion, because that person can do whatever they want. And if they want to get an abortion, I think they should be able to. And if they don't want to get one, then I'm not trying to convince them to do something that goes against their own conscience, you know?
Yeah, I think the bigger or like more interesting question for you guys, either of you, is: do you think? Let's just go crazy. We'll say like 6 months. Do you think a fetus, a baby, whatever you want to call it, around that time is sentient? If you do, I'd be interested in knowing why you're like okay with killing sentient life. If you don't think it's sentient, or has very low level of sentient, then I don't think there's any like disagreement here.
Well,
for the record, I've never given my opinion on what abortions I would be comfortable having. And I couldn't possibly know until I'm in that situation. People that need an abortion later on in their pregnancy, it's usually for very, 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 very good reason. Almost always because it's a non-viable pregnancy anyways. Somebody is going to, the fetus or the carrier is going to die if something doesn't happen, or there's like an extreme birth defect or something like that. So again, you're trying to talk about the morality behind something. I've never shared what I would or wouldn't do. The legality of it is that a woman should have the option to figure that out with her doctor if that's needed.
Okay. Yeah. If you guys don't really want to engage on the, if you think it's sentient or not, then okay. I mean, I think we're getting to the same conclusion, just different ways. I find that the conversation around women's body usually kind of gets struck down because people say, like they minimize the argument. They make it out to be like, well, it's your body. You can just do like anything you want, right? They kind of like, they shit on the argument for usually not good reason. But I find this a better reason, because if, for example, we're okay with like killing certain animals, we're okay with killing certain people that are far more sentient than like, let's say a very new fetus, like a couple weeks old, but they wouldn't be okay with killing that. So I would rather convince them that this is not really life. This is not something sentient, like ants or snails or, things that you squish all day, every day and don't even think about it, are more sentient than this thing that you want to keep alive. So I don't know. I find that to be an easier way to convince people.
Has that worked for you? Because that's never worked for me. The people that I have to argue this with do not give a shit about science. This is about dogma, and this is about the Bible, which it doesn't even say anything in there in the Bible about abortion. But for them, this is a moral high ground. It is about sticking to this one thing. And there's no if you even try to say that a fetus is not sentient, they're going to be like, he knit you together in his mother's womb. There's fingerprints. We can show you. Here's the thing. They are fully on board with that propaganda. I'm just curious. Have you had a lot of debates with people from this standpoint?
No, but similarly, so I engage in a lot of vegan debates, and this is, I don't know how familiar you guys are with that, but sentience surrounding animal life, I guess you could say, is this is a really, really common tactic or common discussion point, I guess you could say, for animals. And I think it works really well with animals. And I think you could easily transition it to fetuses. So wanting to not harm sentient things, or wanting to, or giving access to harm non-sentient things, or low-level sentient things at least.
It's hard because I also feel like part of this whole argument, because I understand, I did also, first of all, misunderstand in the beginning. I thought you were arguing that whatever. I did misunderstand and I'm glad that you clarified. But I think that the argument, I don't know, maybe it will work on some people, but I think what's most kind of what gives me immediate resistance when listening to that be what might potentially pull someone over the edge is it's kind of why isn't my bodily autonomy enough? Why can't it just be that it's my body and I just don't want to do this, and that's not it's, and that's what's if that ultimately it's if that argument pushes someone over the line that would not have gotten over the line before, that's great, because the end goal is to get people to be more allowing of people to have care like that. But at the same time, it is sort of disheartening to be the reason why we can't, or not we can't, the reason why that argument might be stronger is by saying that you have essentially a slug in your body, and versus me being a person who is capable of making decisions and is capable of evaluating my life and my choices, just saying, I just don't want to do this, So it's a tough argument for me. I don't think I could ever use that argument and in good faith, because I immediately have this this bodily resistance to it, where I'm my own decision and my own request for my body and privacy of those choices should be enough, But I understand what you're saying, and I don't know, maybe it will work on some people.
Well, I just think the other problem. So, for example, self-defense. I think we're going to have different answers as far as how far somebody would go in self-defense. And maybe somebody would be I would never hurt another human. I'll get hurt before that happens, but I just wouldn't do it, even if it's self-defense. And then somebody else is going to be I don't care. If somebody breaks into my house, I have a gun, I'm shooting them, I think that the individual gets to decide what they do in that situation, but the right to defend yourself should still be there. You know what I'm saying? You should still be able, that bodily autonomy matters. And so for me, arguing about trying to convince somebody of their own morals, let them do, if they don't want abortions, if they think that this is a life, great. They can keep it. They don't have to get an abortion. They can carry those pregnancies if they want. But the argument is not about that. It's not about whether this is something somebody thinks is moral or not. It's about should pregnant people's bodies be legislated like that. So that's why I don't even want to engage in arguments about this morality aspect, because they can decide whatever. I want our bodies to be protected, not to be controlled in this way.
I have if I talk to a woman, and they consented, let's say this is ridiculous, right? It's a hypothetical. It's ridiculous. They consented. They said, I know engaging in this act might result in me having a fully sentient being attached to me. And this person believes that fetuses are fully sentient and they're going to have that attached to them. And they also said, I'm going to kill it. I would have a tough time swallowing that belief if that's what they said. I would tell them you're in conflict with your own belief. I don't believe that.
The problem is I don't know anybody doing that.
I thought you said that many Christian or many religious people, they do believe that these things are 100% sentient.
They think that is happening. But I don't know women that are saying, I'm going out and doing this. Like, unless I'm unclear about what you're saying, it's just like that hypothetical is, I don't get it. I'm not fully understanding what your point is. Alyssa,
okay, no worries. I think we're reaching the conclusion. Oh, sorry.
No, you can go ahead. I don't think I have any other like bigger things to add to it, because it's hard once we also get into like the hypotheticals too. It's like the conversation can sort of like it can like take off in so many different directions that it almost like loses its grounds. It loses its like roots in what actual conversations people are having and like how people actually feel. And then I don't know how helpful it is, but yeah. Do you have anything else to add? For example,
when I had my ectopic pregnancy, that was an intentional pregnancy. I wanted to have a child at that point in my life. And so I had gotten pregnant on purpose. And then it almost killed me. And so I had to have, life-saving measures taken, and including abortion care. So to me, I don't care if like that had nothing, that was still devastating, because sentience or not, that was to me a life I was looking forward to having. And so that argument, I just think still is irrelevant. I did what I had to do because I was going to die. And I just think that that's not the way to address this, because that's not what's at stake. I don't need to convince people to get abortions. I need to convince people to not regulate other people's bodies that isn't theirs.
Yeah.
And I agree with your conclusion. If you are the sentient being, you consented to do something, but then you have like a problem, something's wrong, you're going to get hurt or injured. This other sentient being is going to have to accept that you can't keep them around, right? So then you would, you get rid of them. So I completely agree with that. Now, like you said, there's a lot of different scenarios and individual instances, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I think we're coming to the same conclusion, but different arguments. So yeah, thanks for hearing out my argument.
Yeah. Thanks, Tyler. Have a good one.
Okay.
I guess I've got announcements. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say, I felt like I was having a hard time following some of Tyler's like thought process through that. So if I don't know, I felt like I don't know. I felt like I was not totally on it for that call, but I think I was sort of like losing the plot a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just at the end of the day, I don't think it's our response. Like I said, I don't want to convince people to get abortions that don't want to get them. That's fine if
Yeah.
I care about the legality. I don't really care about what somebody thinks is wrong or right. That's for them to figure out, and then they can decide what they want to do based off of that.
Yeah.
Hey, do you think this clip just fell out of a coconut tree? No. It did. Okay, now technically I did build the channel into a coconut tree and it did fall out. And also that our internet router is up there. Actually, in a lot of ways, this production fell out of a coconut tree, but we could only afford that because people like you supported us for $5 a month over where is that, Eric?
Patreon.com/calltheline. And
that's right.
Jimmy will,
you got it.
Yeah, be grateful. Yeah.
We have an exclusive patron podcast over there. Check it out. Thumbs up with it, Eric. We talked about this in the meeting. We have to both.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go.